This is a single 5-minute sub-exposure in hydrogen alpha that I took of the Lagoon and Trifid Nebula, and this has been shot in morning twilight, the astronomical twilight in the morning, so it wasn't even fully dark at this time of night. And also I shot this when the object was just barely above the tree line, which is, as you can see here, only 10 degrees above the horizon, and the quality of this one single sub-exposure is just amazing. Look at the detail. This image has been shot using the new Optolong 3nm SHO filters for monochrome narrowband astrophotography, and this is what we are going to review today. I'm going to show you a bunch of images, also 2 final images, a couple of stacks, couple of hours long, so not just single subs, and you can see for yourself whether these filters are for you or not. So let's get started. So these filters come as a set of 3 filters, the Hydrogen Alpha, the Oxygen 3 and the Sulfur II, which is a complete set that you would need to create Hubble-like palette images using monochrome cameras. They come in this nice single box that contain all 3 of these filters, and they say SHO 3nm right here on the bottom. 36mm is the size of these filters. These filters come currently in 2 flavors. One of them is the 36mm unmounted, which is what I got. And this is the box, and the box is currently empty because these have been mounted to my filter wheel, and I don't intend to take them out of my and I don't intend to take them out of my filter wheel for a while. So this is the box, and like I said, the 36mm unmounted goes straight to my ZWO electronic filter wheel, the 8-position filter wheel for 36mm filters. There is a little bit of fiddling to put them in. You need to figure out which way they go, and I've seen some YouTube videos, people not recommending unmounted filters at all because there's a lot of hassle. But honestly, if you get the filter wheel that I got, which will be linked down below, there's no issue at all. There's a magnetic tip on the screwdriver that comes in the box, and it is very easy to put this filter in. And they also come with these sort of gaskets that you could put into the filter wheel to keep them in place. So if you have lost your gaskets, or if your filter wheel didn't come with them, they are included from Optolong. And the second option is the 2-inch mounted filters, and this would be primarily if you are using an APS-C or maybe even a full frame camera. 2-inch are really large. They're also more expensive. We're going to talk about the price in a minute. But they are mounted, which means that you can just screw them in either into the field flattener if you just don't want to use any filter wheel or a filter drawer or anything like that, or you can also use them with a appropriate filter wheel, and it's a bit easier to put them in, but they are bigger, more expensive, and the filter wheel itself is just humongous. So if you're using like an ASI 1600mm or the ASI 294mm Pro, which is what I am using currently, I would recommend to get the 36mm version. You could, with these cameras, which are micro four thirds, you could use the smaller filters, 1¼ inch, but they are not being manufactured by the Optolong in the 3nm bandpass just yet. Maybe they will. If they will, I will try to update the description of this video, but for now only 36mm or 2-inch are available. And speaking of band passes, the 3nm band pass on these new filters from Optolong is one of the biggest selling point of these filters. It is so narrow that you really can isolate the objects that you want to photograph, even if you do astrophotography from light polluted areas like cities, even centers of cities. And I want to show a comparison between a single calibrated sub-exposure that I have captured using my astro-modified DSLR and the Optolong Extreme, which is a 7nm in bandpass, versus these new filters with only 3nm of a bandpass. So let's check that out. This is a single sub, the red channel from a single sub, auto stretched here in PixInsight of the Flaming Star and Tadpoles. And here to compare that, we have a single sub from my ASI 294mm Pro using the new 3nm Hydrogen Alpha filter from Optolong. And as you can see, the difference is staggering. There's so much information even in a single 5 minutes sub-exposure here on the image on the right. And on the image on the left, you can clearly see that there is signal there, but there is nowhere near that amount of contrast and that amount of detail that we have on the right. And To be fair, this is not exactly comparing apples to apples. If I were to do that, I would have to use the ZW-ASI-294MC versus my 294mm, so it would be the same camera. I was using a DSLR, so it's not exactly the same, but as you can see, the purpose of having narrower band passes is to isolate the good signal from the bad light pollution that you don't want in your photos. And this single sub of Flaming Star really show you that. And also the sub of the Lagoon as well shows you that the 3nm bandpass can really isolate this signal, even in astronomical twilight, even just only 10 degrees in altitude above the horizon. The amount of signal is just amazing here. But there is a little bit of a catch, or a caveat as you might say. Because the bandpasses are so narrow, you also get just in general less light onto your sensor. So if you want to do manual focusing, boy, you're gonna have a trouble doing that, because you're not going to see pretty much anything on very short exposures. And if you were to do it in a live view with like a DSLR mirrorless camera, which I wouldn't recommend, these filters are ready for monochrome cameras, you wouldn't see absolutely anything. You would have a lot of problems trying to focus. I'm using a ZW-EAF electronic focuser, and I had to bump up the exposure time from 5 seconds to 20 seconds just for Nina, my acquisition software, to be able to detect stars and perform the autofocus routine. This is how brutal these 3nm filters are. They really cut off so much light. So because you need longer exposure times, even if you have an automatic focuser, you need to be prepared for longer autofocus runs in general with these filters. But I don't think that really is a problem, honestly. I think it's pretty natural. And if you're using filter offsets, which is something that you should do, if you have an electronic filter wheel, an electronic focuser, and you have a luminance filter, you can basically run the autofocus routine for your narrowband filters once, calculate the offset between the luminance filter, which is the one that lets in as much light as possible and warrants shorter exposure times for autofocusing, and then you can use the offsets to move your focus, your optimal focus point, from the luminance filter to an HA filter, or to an S2 filter, or to the O3 filter. This is something that I could cover in a future video, but basically you don't have to worry about it as long as you have an electronic filter wheel and an electronic focuser, which is an additional expense if you don't already own these pieces of equipment. Alright, so right now let's take a look at a few things that you might want to be aware of before you decide to pick up these filters for yourself. And something that I was quite surprised at first when the first sub-exposure came in is the kind of a distinctive pattern of that looks like kind of a vignette here. Take a look at this image on the left. This is a single sub of the Jellyfish Nebula project that I have been shooting lately, and this is auto stretch, and you can see on the left there's this dark band here. Here's a little bit of a darker region, and there's this kind of a vignette here. The stuff on the right is sort of a natural vignette, but stuff on the left looks kind of odd. As you can see, there's also amp glow here on the right, which is caused by my camera, and this is something that calibrates away easily with darks, and it doesn't have anything to do with filters, so just don't mind that. And then on the image on the right, this is the calibrated image. As you can see, the amp glow is gone, and also the vignette is gone. So don't worry if you see something like this. In fact, let me show you a flat stack that I used to calibrate these images. This is a master flat in HA. This is stretched. If I take away the stretch, this is how the flat looks, and now stretched looks like this. And as you can see, exactly, you have this vignette on the right, and you have this weird kind of band on the left, and this darker spot right here. This is something that is different in every of those filters. It might be different in your copy of the filter. I'm not sure if this is like a manufacturing defect or something, but this is so tiny. It only shows here if you stretch this image really hard, and if you use proper flats, it calibrates away completely. So I wouldn't really say it's a defect of the filters, or if it's some kind of an issue with the filters. I think it's perfectly normal, and it just calibrates easily with flats. So just calibrate with flats and move on with your life. Don't be scared if you see this kind of weird vignette in your single uncalibrated images as you start taking photos on your first night after purchasing these filters. So this is something that you should be aware of. Again, no problem, just calibrate them away. And another thing, let's for now address the elephant in the room, maybe something that you, if you are a seasoned astrophotographer, are probably looking for. Do these filters produce halos on bright stars? And unfortunately, they do. Unlike what some other reviewers on YouTube might claim, they do produce halos. Those halos, I think, are not the end of the world. They are easily kind of addressable in post-production, but let me show you how they look. So let me show you a couple of stacks. These are stacks of the Jellyfish project. And first, let's take a look at the O3. So this is the O3, and as you can see in oxygen, we do have some halos around these bright stars. These are the two bright stars of the constellation Gemini. This is not Alnitak, which is something that people would usually test this on, near the Horsehead Nebula. So with Alnitak, it might be a little bit bigger even. These are two stars of the constellation Gemini, like I mentioned. And those halos are, after a couple of hours, stacking them in oxygen 3, they're there. But I think they're pretty round, they're pretty regular. You could even leave them in, or you can easily remove them in Photoshop. And by the way, if you would like to see exactly how I edited this Jellyfish Nebula photo to come up with this final photo, which to me looks absolutely amazing, I have a video where I explain step by step how I process these images, all of the steps in PixInsight and Photoshop, every single thing with commentary, all the details, as I was dealing with these data for the very first time. This video is, however, exclusive for my Patreon members, and this is going to be the first video of a series where I will be showing how I edit my images to the way that I post them on my Instagram. So if you're interested in my very, very detailed editing process and basically where I share all my secrets, you can head over to the description down below and join me on Patreon, and you will have the exclusive access to these videos. So just to put it out there. Let me show you the stacks of HA and S3. So the S2. So the HA is here, and as you can see, there's a ton of detail here in the HA stack, and you have those two bright stars. Maybe there's a little bit of haloing, but honestly, I don't think there's, I would say there are no halos in HA just by looking at that. And then in S2, there's a very similar case to hydrogen alpha. Again, very, very strong signal here with 3nm filters, and the halos around these two stars are pretty much non-existent. And again, this halo around O3 is easily removable, like I did for this project. So again, if you want to see how exactly I've done it, you know what to do. Head over down below and join me on Patreon. So you've seen the final image of the Jellyfish, and let me also show you the final image of the Flaming Star and Tadpoles Nebula, which is this one. I think this looks absolutely incredible. This is around 9-ish hours, I think, of integration, and it looks absolutely phenomenal. I'm shooting all my images from the balcony in Krakow under Bortle 7 skies. And I am very, very happy with these filters. I think they are also a very good bargain, because you can get these filters, a set of 3, for the price of a single Astrodon narrowband 3nm filter. So the Astrodon is supposedly like the best ones on the market, and a single Astrodon filter, for instance HA, costs I think even a little bit more than a complete set of HA, S2 and O3 from Optolong. I think they are an extremely great value for money. As you can see, there are some haloing. There's some haloing in O3, which is what we usually see with narrowband filters, honestly. So we just have to either accept it or deal with that in post-production. As it comes to the price of these filters, you can get the set for $1,000, I think, the 36mm version. The 2-inch, I think it's $1,200. Not a very dramatic price difference. So if you have a bigger sensor, you just need to get the larger ones. And if you have an if you have a Micro Four Thirds, I would recommend the 36mm, which is what I got. And by the way, I got these filters from Optolong for free, so I can use them and review them on these channels, but they didn't influence anything I say in this video. As you can see, I also pointed out some flaws like those haloing issues, and I wasn't like paid to make this video. This video has not been reviewed by them or anything like that. Everything I say on this channel is completely honest, as it always have been and always will be. So yeah, would I recommend them? I would absolutely recommend them. If you're using a monochrome camera, if you have filter wheel, I would definitely recommend to use them, especially if you live in a light polluted area. And links to these filters will be down below if you want to pick them up for yourself. And yeah, that's basically it for me. If you like this video, please make sure to leave it a thumbs up down below. I would appreciate it. Also, consider subscribing to my channel because I will be posting more videos like this in the future for sure. So hopefully see you in one of my next videos. Bye bye.